Hey, welcome to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. I have a great guest today. It's a very interesting person. So her name is Amy Bailey. So she's an editor and publisher at MyScoop. They have things that she wanted to talk to me because of my love of t-shirts, because she's all about fashion and I'm all about t-shirts. So she loves fashion, recipes, craft cocktails, gardening, travel, party ideas, everything the Southern Belle needs, she can hook you up with. And I'm obviously a Southern Belle. So she wanted to talk to me. Actually, I want to talk to her. She's my scoop for one thing, but she's also got a very interesting concept that I want to talk to you guys about. So Amy, so thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Southern Belle's got to hang out together. Right. So
Right.
we're just talking about a little bit before. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Huntsville.
Okay.
So
And
I'm a true Huntsvillian.
that's right. They're rare, man. We're a rare breed. I'm one as well. So so let me ask you this. What kind of kid were you? Were you into fashion as a kid? So how did that, what were you into when you were a kid?
I was. My grandmother was a seamstress.
Oh,
And so she actually had a sewing house where she would sew, and she had all these sewing machines and just shelves and shelves of fabric and all these old vintage patterns. And that was amazing to me. I just thought it was the coolest thing. I would go through the ones from the 1970s and 1960s, and I was just fascinated by it all.
so was she making like bell bottoms and stuff back in the day? What was she making?
Back in the day, yeah. And then when I was a teenager, I requested those. But she could do anything. I mean, a formal gown, a Sunday dress. I mean, she could do anything, and she would do her own patterns too, which is pretty amazing. You could show her a picture of something from a magazine, and she would do it. Yeah,
Man, that's
yeah.
amazing. So me, I can make a sandwich. That maybe a sandwich. That's about it. But for people that can create things like that, just especially if they can just look at it and just like, hey, I can make that. Just like
Yeah.
some people that can listen to something once and play it on the piano or whatever. Those people amaze me. That one skipped me. So that's really cool. So was she also your influence on how you got in everything Southern Belle? Was she that influence as well?
Um, she was, and also my mom. My
Okay.
mom, is just has an eye for style and can do everything from a tablescape to decorating a room to cooking a great meal.
Nice. So when did you start developing? Hey, I'm interested in these things, but I want to kind of make these my living. So how did that kind of come about?
Well, so I moved away from the South for a moment, and I lived in New York, and I worked for Us Weekly, and I loved it. But it also made me appreciate the South a lot more,
Sure.
and all the things that we may tend to take for granted. um Big family meals and the way we dress and our weather and all these things that just make our experience so unique. And so when I moved back, I continued working in magazines, but it was around that time people started creating blogs. And at that time, you know, not many people in the South were even doing blogs, and very few were being done for the Southern woman in relation to style and whatnot. And so I just felt like there was a huge void there. And also just in relation to women in the South. And you might have a city magazine that would talk about restaurants and entrepreneurs and all these things, and then of course you have Southern living, but there was so much not being spoken about in relation to the modern Southern woman.
That's cool. Yeah. So you kind of start developing it. You started something called MyScoop. First of all, I need to know about how'd you come up with the name? Because I started a business and my name is Joe Martin. So my business name was Joe Martin Fitness LLC. So some people are really smart about their names. So how did you come up with MyScoop?
So it's kind of a random story, but of course, scoop in journalism means you have the scoop. And I was at the beach with my husband and his family, and my little nephews were playing in the sand, and they kept going, scoop, scoop, scoop. And it just like a light bulb. I had been trying to come up with a name that was more, general, that didn't alienate, any kind of reader. And so when they kept doing that, I thought, Scoop, that's a great name. So it's very random, but you never know how something might trigger you.
That's right. Hey, it fits, right? So, and it's just, they get it over. It's just meant to be, right? So it's just, they helped you out. So that's cool. So yeah, like I said, maybe some people just name them after themselves because I couldn't think of anything. So I was like, well, I'll just name it after myself. So
There
yeah.
you go.
So tell people, if they're not familiar with it, tell people kind of what you guys do on your website.
So in relation to the modern Southern woman, we speak about everything you can think of, from recipes to relationships to getting older to travel. There's home decor, there's craft mocktail recipes, and just a variety of different things.
That's cool. And are you coming up with all these? Are you curating them? Like, what's your role? And you're editor and publisher. Do you have extra writers that work for you? Do you hire people? How does it work?
I do have some freelance writers, but I do a lot of it now. Yes.
Nice. That's a lot. That's a lot to cover right there.
It is.
So you mentioned mocktails. So I want to bring that up because you did something interesting that maybe some, we're recording this on December 15th. So this will come out in a little less than a week, around the 20th. So it'll almost be the new year. People are starting things. Maybe they want to quit drinking. So that's something you did. You made this decision. I'm going to go alcohol free. So tell me how you came about that decision, first of all.
Well, lots of different things, kind of a chain effect. But in 2017, my husband and I cut back on our drinking, and that was, his father had passed from lung cancer, and my stepfather had passed very unexpectedly, and neither related to drinking, but those things make you think about your own mortality. And there was the health component, certainly. And then I had some friends who had stopped drinking. And one in particular, her name is Erin Street Shaw, and she's a writer also. And she kept speaking about the mommy drinking culture and just how is that affecting women. And that was very interesting to me to sort of challenge this idea that is full force out there, whether you're watching TV or movies or on social media. Mama needs her wine. And that was interesting because I hadn't thought about it like that, because it's just a glass of wine, what's the big deal? But when you see it constantly, and especially being driven towards women, it kind of makes you step back and go, okay, what exactly is positive about this? And then so fast forward 2 years, we read articles and books and all these different things. And that was very interesting to me because, I learned about the tick, and, I always thought, well, it's around 5 o'clock. It's time to celebrate. It's time for a little cocktail. And so, so to learn about the tick, which is your brain, when you are routinely drinking, your brain tells you it's time for a cocktail. And that bothered me. I didn't like that something could so easily be in your life and you're unaware of how controlling it is.
Right.
And so even just having a glass a day, that your brain tells you want that glass a day, and all these things just kind of came together. And then after 2 years of cutting back, we had some people in our lives who were suffering immensely from alcoholism. And we thought, well, you know what, why not just give it up? Because we just didn't like what it was doing. And it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth when you see it affecting other people so extremely. And so we did. And I say we, because I didn't realize that my husband was going to give it up. I was giving it up, and I didn't want to be that wife who was like, you need to stop doing this too. And so the fact that he continued on this journey was pretty cool and unexpected. 1 month into it, my father had a series of strokes at our home, and those were alcohol related. That's, it was suspected that they were alcohol related, and then all the doctors confirmed that they were alcohol related. So that was interesting that happened 1 month into our sobriety, because we had not told anyone we were even doing that, because
Right.
that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
If you tell people, oh, we're not drinking anymore, it's like, what? I mean, you really need to hold your word to that. And even then, with that affirmation of seeing someone who I love so dearly suffering like that, it just seemed like, yes, we need to continue this course. And then, even then, I don't know that we thought we would do it for more than a year. I think we thought, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yeah.
And so that was 2 years, 2 months ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's been the hardest part? Is it the beginning or is it now? Where was the hardest part?
The beginning is by far the hardest.
It always is, right?
And it's just awkward, I mean, I speak, from a unique position. I know other people have other, journeys that they are on. But for me, that sort of like, what do I do with my hands thing,
Yeah.
And going to parties and getting through that first 15 minutes. And that was interesting too, because I had read different things that said that anxiety that you feel when you first walk into a party and your instinct is, where's the drink? Where's the bar? Get through it, just push through that first 15 minutes and it goes away. And it does. And what I found is, it's like so many things, it takes practice. And the more you do it, the less hard it is. But it really is, that first week is hard, that first month is hard. And then something happens around 3 months that it just seems a little easier. And then you get to 6 months and you see that year, so close, and you're like, I can do this. At 6 months, it really becomes so much easier. And then, at a year, I just thought, well, why would I feel so good. Why would I break this? Like, what reason do I have to drink? If I'm enjoying this and it feels awesome, then why not just keep going? So now it's by far so much easier than it was in the beginning. And I just don't think about it.
That's when it's good, when it's not even something that it's in the back of your head. Like, I'm sure in the beginning it was just eating at you, like you said, that first 15 minutes, like, all right, that's just what I do when I show up at a party. I go to the bar. You got to break those habits. So tell people kind of some of the benefits you've gotten from being alcohol free.
Energy, much better energy, focus, feeling present. People talk about that word a lot now, but it's so much easier to be in the moment with my family. When I went to see the Nutcracker this past weekend, and that is something that I distinctly notice when drinking was more a routine part of my life. It was agony to sit still. It was always like, okay, when's intermission? And looking through the program, okay, how many more acts do we have? And I don't do that anymore. And I don't know if it's the drinking or getting older or what, but it's interesting to me that I can sit in situations now still for a very long time and be so present with what's happening. Sermons at church, like, I always end up just wanting to hear more and really getting something out of it, to where before I might get a little antsy. That's an interesting part to me. And then, the biggest thing, and this is what I tell people, is there seems to be this underlying joy and peace And, we've had some major things happen in the past 2.5 years, like I was telling you with my dad. And after those strokes, he came to live with us, and then he did pass in April of 2020. But even in those just gut-wrenching times, I still felt a sense of peace, like everything was going to be okay, even in those awful days. And that's interesting. That's interesting. It didn't feel like the world was falling apart.
Wow, that was some awesome. I mean, being present is so huge. People talk about it, but I think a lot of us will sometimes, spend time with friends or family, but they're not really there. You've probably talked to people that you can already tell they're either running a list in their head or they're thinking about the next thing, and they're not there with you. So that's a huge one. And just give yourself strength to get through these tough times. I mean, having that, who needs, when you have joy, even through the hard times, what an amazing benefit, right?
Right.
So there's, like I said, probably there's some people that have been thinking about doing this. They want to do this. What would be some tips for you? So someone that's wanting to start off and just cut down and give up alcohol completely.
Well, I would say, give yourself little goals. It doesn't have to be, give it all up immediately. Maybe just begin to cut back and see how that goes and see how you feel. I would have a good support system. It was amazing to me how many people that I connected with on this journey that hadn't drank, or they had just given it up about the same time that I did, or they had heard what a friend was doing and then they decided to give it up. And so that's been huge, is just to have people who support you. And I have lots of friends who drink, of course, who are still very supportive and very curious. And I think it's just important to talk about it more openly. And also on that same kind of note, know why you're doing it. And so when people do become a little more, now why are you doing that? Did you have a problem? And start asking these series of questions, you can say, no, I just decided to take a break, or I just decided for health reasons that I needed to cut back, or I'm just not drinking right now. And
and that is something you've been open about. Alcohol wasn't a problem with you. It wasn't like something that was ruining your life or anything like that. It's just something that you made the choice, right?
Right. And then whatever your, if part of your ritual, whether it's a daily thing or a, Thursday and weekend thing, or whatever it may be that cocktail represents, come up with something else, hot tea or, a mocktail. There's so many different options now. And even going to local restaurants, if you ask the bartender to make you something non-alcoholic, most of them are going to jump at the chance because, well, they're good at their job. And imagine the margin on that if they're not putting alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Charging you about the same price.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so have those little things that make you feel celebratory. For sure.
And you've also got great tips on your Instagram. You do a really good job on Instagram. So it's at MyScoop on Instagram. And I'll link that in show notes as well. But you need to definitely follow her and check her out. She also giving out good tips and things like that on there. So so that's really cool. And people can follow you on there and just kind of see how you've done it. And you give updates occasionally on what you have going on with that. So that's a great way to do it. It's just always good to find out it's possible, right? Especially for someone right now who maybe they drink 3, 4, 5 nights a week and they just can't imagine a life without alcohol. And then just to see someone that it was in their life and they made a choice to cut it down, and how much it's done for them, giving you joy and peace and comfort and all these things that sound like it's a Bible story, so it's cool that they can see when things are possible. It's so much easier than just when they're thinking, I got to do this by myself. And those tips of finding a support system, anything you do is so important. So it's cool that your husband jumped right in and said, all right, I'm gonna do this with you. Because if he's over there drinking right next to you while you're trying, it's going to be that much harder. So to do that together is very, very cool. All right, so we're going to get into the rapid fire questions. Probably the most important part. It's very stressful to be in the hot seat right now, but I think you can handle it because you haven't drank in 2 years. So you got that inner strength that you can handle this. So, all right, the first one right here. You may have already answered this inadvertently. What have you done lately that you are the most proud of?
The not drinking thing's
That's
big.
pretty good. I should have known that one, right? Yeah, that's a really good one. So, what compliment do people give you the most?
My writing. People love my writing. And I'm so fortunate to get to hear comments like that because it's very encouraging.
All right, this is not on the list, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you know how to use semicolons?
Sort of.
I have no idea. I've written a couple books. I write stuff all the time. I don't know how grammar works. I was just curious if anyone else does. I see them out there. I'll throw one out there just every now and then to see if it works, but I don't know how they work. So I'll see if you did.
Okay,
so.
We'll continue this conversation.
Yeah, I need to have a grammar expert on. So.
And I'll have a better answer.
That's right. All right. So this is probably a tough one for you, but what is your favorite book?
Ooh, oh goodness. I love y'all Jesse's Homecoming. She's from Huntsville,
mm-hmm.
and that book is amazing. It is a game changer. It is just incredible. And to think she was so young when she wrote it is just amazing.
And how old was she when she wrote that one?
Oh goodness, I think was she 21? She was early 20s.
I was early 20. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly, but man, yeah, it is amazing. Yeah. Hometown girl. That's awesome. So, what's one of your weird quirks?
I take a hot bath every day.
Nothing wrong with that. My wife does too.
I am a bath girl. My mom is a bath girl, and for whatever reason, I grew up taking baths, and so I still love a bubble bath. Yeah.
I feel weird if I see dudes that I hear about dudes taking baths. I don't know why it is. I think because most of them don't fit in the tub right. It's just not right. But
right.
It seems like a good idea sitting around on that. But yes. So if you could teach one subject in school, what would it be?
Creative writing.
Creative writing. That's a great one right there. So you mentioned it earlier about the mocktails. What's your go-to mocktail for yourself?
So I used to love an Aperol spritz. And there is a company called Lyres. It's Lyre', which I think is so clever. Yeah. But it's a non-alcoholic brand. And they do an Italian spritz. And so you take that and you mix it with a little Groovy, which is another non-alcoholic brand that does beer, wine, spirits. They have a dry Secco. And so you mix those two together and it is just as good as an Aperol spritz, if not better. Nice.
I'd call it the Groovy Lyre. That'd be my drink. I'd call it the Groovy Lyre. So yeah. But yeah, those are cool. There's so many options now for non-alcohol. I've got some friends that have done the same. There's beers, whatever you want. They've got it, I haven't tried one myself. I got to be honest, but they say it tastes just like the real thing, and it kind of satisfies that craving of what do I do with my hands if I'm at a party? I can have this. So it's been helpful for them. So.
And you should know this too. Our Whole Foods is now selling Athletic Brewing. And they have the best beer. I mean, it tastes just the same as if you're a beer drinker. Yeah. An awesome IPA. And so it's at our Whole Foods.
Nice. Hey, Huntsville's coming up, man. We're becoming somebody right here. All right. And the last one, you've done really well so far. You want to wrap it up with this one. What's the best thing that's happened to you this month?
So my husband has worked very, very hard all his adult life, and he has an apartment deal closing that is just absolutely incredible. And on that note, I will say, and he actually has talked about this, the phone call for this deal came through when we were on vacation. And this was probably about 7-8 months into not drinking. And we were sitting by the pool and the phone call came in. And he talks about how if we had been drinking, that he probably would not have answered that phone.
Oh, wow.
He would have had anxiety about who was calling and being professional and sounding professional, or he would have just said, oh, I'm on vacation, forget it. And so, so that's interesting. I think we tend to think about alcohol in big terms as in, well, if it's not, hurting me, if it's not ruining my life, then is it a problem? But I think there's little things that it does, that until you cut back or until you stop, you don't really notice. Like that little anxiety, about answering the phone, or that low energy, or that, I'm not going to do that today because I just feel kind of, So,
Yeah.
so that's interesting to think about, and
Yeah,
just
you kind of get on autopilot sometimes, and you just I always feel like this way, so I guess this is how I feel, when it could be so much different.
right, right.
All right. Well, you did awesome on this. So people will got to go check you out. Like I said, on Instagram at MyScoop, and check out your website, myscoop.us. Go check out all of us Southern Belles on there, what we're into, all these things. So Amy, thanks so much for coming on, giving people hope and some steps, some action steps they can take if they want to do the same thing and get those benefits in their life from going alcohol free. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, y'all go out and follow her, check it out. Hey, and I'm sure that if people reach out to you all the time, you help them out and just give tips and hope and strength for people that want to do the same thing. Because I see you out there helping people all the time. So appreciate what you do, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you later.